Welcome to the Collector's Archive, Season 5, Episode 2.
Mark, how are we doing?
Okay, thanks. Yes. Been for my dog walk, done some work, all good, ready to crack on.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, well, thank you for coming on and chatting with me. I will get straight into it. You know, why delay and put things off? So
Why indeed?
Yeah. So do you want to start off with just let people know, you know, who you are and where they can find you, you know, on the socials thing?
Yeah, so my name's Mark. I only really use one social media these days for hobbies and such anyway. So if you find me on Instagram, and it's Deskbot Quickshots, which is difficult to say 3 times fast or even 1 time slow sometimes. So that's where you'll find me posting about my robots and various other things in the stories. Any other social media you find of me is very, very boring, and I wouldn't bother.
Yeah, I must admit, I've been a follower of yours now on Instagram for quite a while now, and you know, I must admit, I'm quite envious of some of your shots. You managed to get some really good poses out of the figures, you know, just in that, you know, in that frame. Well, I know, like you say, Deskbot Quickshots. You see, even I'm having trouble saying it just the once.
I should have thought it through much better when I chose the
No, it works. It works. It's unique. So, where do you take those photos? I mean, I assume yes, they are on the desktop. But I mean, do you have any do you have a special lighting set up with them at all, or is it just a case of you just plonk them there and take the photo?
So somebody asked me this the other day, and they didn't believe the answer. But basically, the room I'm in now is my office where I do my self-employed work. I have a very long desk from IKEA. On one side is a second monitor, because I am a 2-monitor wanker now. And on the other side, so to my left, is a bit of a blank space where I sort of rotate my collection around. So I'll have about 4 or 5 bots on the desk on that corner at any given point. The rest are in a cupboard. And so I just, in between work when I'm thinking, because so I've got a creative copywriting job, so I have to think a lot, or I have to look like I'm thinking a lot. So I'll just have a few bots on there, and I just mess about with them and pose them, and that's all I do. In terms of a setup, I've got a Google Pixel 8 Pro, which does some heavy lifting. And a sheet of A4 paper, which is what I use to diffuse light and get a consistent look. So I didn't do that at first, and you get your glare and brightness and metallic paints and stuff. So so I basically balance a sheet of paper in one hand and try to get a decent angle with my phone in the other. It's very much a case of not taking a very long time to do it. They are quick shots, and they are on my desk. It is a very literal account name that I used. So when you're doing that, then I'm assuming then. I mean, is there any rhyme or reason to who you pick to do the photo, or is it literally just a case of, I'll do that figure? No, it's literally what I fancy messing about with at that time, or which figure I want to have out the cupboard for a while. And some get photographed more than others, just because some are more dynamic than others. So you don't want to. I don't want to just constantly post the same thing over and over again. So I try to do a different one each day, and then go back to the one from 2 days ago. But I've got 5 on the desk at the moment, which I'm just messing about with, taking some photos. I'll do a couple of them on a morning, maybe. I don't schedule content or anything like that. It's very much a case of, it makes me do that thing that day, and that's how I find it enjoyable, I guess. I don't overthink this. I'm not.
No. I think maybe that's where I'm going wrong with it. I think, was it the one you did yesterday? Which, if anyone's watching this back whenever, that's going to make no sense to them, but it will to us, so that's fine. It was the one with Blur, Fans Toys Jabba, looking like he was just going to be like sliding off the edge of the desk. I mean that's what I like about your stuff is how, even though it is a static shot, you do make them look animated, which is kind of like, that's the issue I have. I mean, the descriptive on my channel is in-action master of the static shot. Because I'm really, really kind of like unimaginative when it comes to like doing a pose. Even trying to do a walking pose, I can never get it right. I can never get the right angle, or the figure ends up toppling over, or whatever like that. So I've got to give you credit for those. There are some nice shots. So maybe
I think for me it's just
a wise one.
I would go that far. I think for me it's just, does it look natural?
Yeah.
Does it look? Obviously they're robots, but does it look human? Does it look like a way somebody would stand?
Right.
Is always the thing I come back to. If you've got like one arm over here doing that, is there a reason for that? Is there a sword or something at play, or have you just moved the arm by accident and it doesn't look shit? And the other thing I suppose what kind of frees me up is just the use of the phone. As bizarre as that might sound to people who are more photographically minded than I am, is that it just lets me work around different angles. I mean, I did take a few different ones of that jabber yesterday because at some points his head looked really weird. So I was just like moving around trying to find a spot where his head looked like it was attached to his body and his neck wasn't broken. But because of that, it kind of lets me use various tilts and angles and come up sometimes with something a bit more dynamic. And obviously, invariably, the poses that do best are A stances, which have no flair of creativity whatsoever. And the ones you spend an actual time on don't do as much. But yeah, for me, it's about, does it look natural?
Years ago, I used to take photos on my phone and that, but there was a software update and it just nerfed the camera on it. So that's when I took the plunge and I went to DSLR. And so, that's where I do my photos on now. But I get that thing because I think sometimes, I know myself, I'm sometimes restricted on angle because I'm using a tripod. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, I'm useless at holding the camera freely because they always come out blurred, he's shaking or something, Even when you have like, the anti-shake or autofocus thing on them, you still get a bit of an, I'm a bit of a stickler. I like a nice, crisp, sharp line kind of thing. So, but no, that's great. That's so that's give us a bit of idea of where you're coming from and and how you're doing that. So, I'll start then with the the main bulk of the questions, if you will. Which do you have a main collecting focus, or do you just tend to pick up bits and bobs that catch your eye?
I mean, I think like a lot of people, my main focus is G1 style. Mostly Masterpiece. I don't really go much for the main line.
Right.
There's a couple of examples where I have, but I don't do it generally speaking. So I tend to just do the big ticket Masterpiece items, which is, bankrupting in some cases. So that's my main focus, and I'll go for Beast Wars stuff a lot, but there isn't as much out there, unfortunately. No. I've got a couple of movie bots, but not a lot of them, and a couple of what I call just the random ones, so stuff like, some of the IDW inspired stuff and the Fall of Cybertron stuff. But yeah, I mean, the vast majority of it is Masterpiece, third party. And outside of Transformers, I've got some other. We've got a few Marvel things and a couple of Star Wars, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But most of the money goes on Masterpiece Transformers, G1 style.
Masterpiece Transformers. Right. So, why do you collect then? What motivated you to start doing it?
I think my brother's to blame a lot. Let's be fair. So, your viewers will know my brother is Plastic Crack. Yeah. Another excellent photographer, miles better photography than I am. He puts a lot more thought into it as well. So he's my older brother, and I shared his Transformers collection when we were children. And about 2016, I think it was, his wife bought him it was Titan's Return Soundwave.
All right.
So a big chunky Soundwave, which we thought was expensive at the time. How little we knew. And so it just kind of went a bit from there. And it was just like, I mean, I got the Titans Return Galvatron, which I could look back on and say was a bit bit poor, really. Wasn't the best, because to my mind there'd been no good Galvatron figure. I'd had the original one, which was big and chunky and grey, and could prop up. It could be a load bearing unit for a room, really. So I got that, and then he started drifting into Masterpiece stuff, and I was like, oh, it's expensive, but that hot rod looks pretty cool. I'll just get that, and then it just it spiraled from there, really, from just getting a few characters to then it went from getting the characters I wanted to that looks like a good collection item, that looks like a good figure. Yeah, I'll have that, and it's just that's sort of how it's went from there, really.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, there was no specific kind of intent behind it to start collecting. It was kind of pretty much sounds like it were accidental kind of thing. It was just kind of like, oh right, yeah, that looks cool, I'll pick that up.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, so obviously I got the hot rod, and then I was like, oh, I'll have a Megatron and an Optimus, which were the oversized Wei Zhang ones, which were great, but then very quickly didn't fit what the rest of it had. Right. And then I got a Fans Toy Sovereign for what was a pretty obscenely cheap price at the time. I think I paid like £100 or £90 for the first run of Sovereign. Yeah. And I was like, oh, the Cyclonus would go well with that. I should have a sound wave. So it just kind of went from there. I mean, and very much the same. I remember my brother saying this to you before. It was like, I got out of the point of spending money on nights out and such.
Yeah.
I got out of that going out drinking socially side of things. So I had money to do it, and I was just like, well, if I'm working from home, which I was and still am, it's just a nice thing to have on the desk and to mess about with.
Right.
In between sort of work blasts, I guess.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think was that we had a decent size amount of the original toys, but obviously for one reason or another, none of them look particularly like the characters in a lot of cases. No. And when they do, they weren't very movable. And because Transformers is always so futuristic, even though it's like the original series is entirely set in the past now. It was it's the year 2005. No, it's not.
Yeah.
So to have versions of those characters that looked like those characters, was probably a big part of the draw for me, I think.
Right. Would you say do you have a particular goal in mind with your collecting? Is there an end game to it, or is it just a case like the process of your collecting does it have a direction?
I think the best version of any of the characters I care about would be the best way to put it. So I've had things that I've bought and I've sold less than a year later because some of them were like boredom purchases, and there were decent figures. I mean, stuff like last year I got the Fans Hobby Armada Megatron, but I was never into Armada. I just thought it looked quite cool.
Yeah,
and it was cool. It's a great figure, but it didn't fit what my overall collection was. It was just a way to part with some money and get a quick dopamine hit. So I'd say just to have the best versions of those characters, and I mean, I suppose that naturally lends itself to an end point, but that's not there yet. Because obviously there's characters that I don't care about so much, but who have great figures, so I'll pick them up. So.
Yeah. So sorry, I missed that point. So going back briefly.
God, yeah.
Which figure was it you said that got you back into it? Was it the Titans Return Soundwave, or was it the?
So my brother got the Titans Return Soundwave, which led to me getting the Titans Return Galvatron.
Right.
And then it was Masterpiece Hot Rod.
Right. So. What was your last purchase then? What was the last figure you picked up?
Last figure I picked up was the Fans Toys Jabba reissue. Right. And before that it was the Mastermind Creations Blades to finally finish off Defensor.
Yeah.
Which has been a good few years coming.
Right. That reissue of Jabba, does that come with the Target Master?
It does, yeah.
It does. Oh, right. Because all the promo pictures that there it is. Yeah. all the promo pictures I've seen of it, it's not shown the Target Master. And I was just curious as whether or not
it's there. I just think Target Masters in general aren't the best. So maybe they're not showing it off so much. But yeah.
No, but that said, I think so far, well, in my personal opinion, I think so far the best Target Master that's come with any figure is the one that came with Inquisitor, with Scourge, Fans Toy Scourge.
Yeah, but you can't hold it. The handle's not long enough.
It can now because I pestered Fans Toys for an extended handle and they sent me one.
I thought about that, but then I saw something that said, if you install it, you might break the figure, and I was like, I don't really need him to hold it that much.
Yeah.
I think my favorite. I don't love Target Masters just because I think they're always so compromised. But I think my favorite's probably the one that comes with the Masterpiece Artfire. That's a good looking Target Master in both forms.
Right. Yeah. I see. I didn't. I backed the Ocular Max, the MMC, when they did Kojin, when they did their version of Artfire. And so I backed that, so that's the one I've got, because it came with a translucent one as well.
Right.
Which looks, don't get me started on translucent plastic. That's my jam, is that translucent plastic. So I went with that, but I did pick up the Takara Inferno and Grapple. But I had them for a brief while, did what I wanted, and then I sold them on because I already had the Ocular Max ones, which, those Ocular Max figures, they're, in my mind, that's what a Masterpiece should be like. Where it looks like a G1 toy or an evolution of a G1 toy, but it's also got enough about it that's made it fresh and made it look a bit more modern.
See, for me, I think my thing's always going to be cartoon accuracy, and that's just the impression that the show and the movie made on me, really. So I'm always quite pleased that it's moved in that direction, but I understand why people aren't quite as enamoured with the very smooth, very flat surfaces of the 40-year-old cartoon.
Like I said, I've picked up all the newer stuff, and and it all fits and it lines up. Like I said, but my own personal taste would be more of a toy aesthetic to them. Because that's where that's the origin of them, if you will, really. Of course, that. So okay. So we know what you've picked up recently. That was Jabba. Is there all you've got your eye on at the moment? Then do you have any pre-orders in?
Got a couple. The one that I'm looking forward to the most is the second Fans Toy Sovereign. Because I am a bit of a sucker for Galvatron. Yeah. And Sovereign 1 is a great figure and very imposing. But when you look at it side by side, you can really see where the improvements have gone in the sculpt.
Yes.
Especially the alt mode. Not that the alt mode's always the be all and end all, but that's such a huge improvement. But also the actual robot mode itself just looks so much more like the smooth, rounded Galvatron as it should be. So that's the one I'm really eyeing up this year. But I've also got pre-ordering for their Ironhide.
Yes.
Because I do love the MP Ironhide, but it's showing its age a little bit. And to be fair, my copy I've transformed backwards and forwards quite a lot. So I don't know how much longer that long life design is going to actually last.
Mine. I'm the same. I've got Sovereign 2.0 on pre-order. And is it Warhorse and Doc? So Fans Toys version of Ironhide and Ratchet. So my Sovereign and the MP Ironhide and Ratchet, they're on the sales pile now, which I still need to photograph and get them listed.
There'll be so many Sovereigns.
There will. Yeah, there will. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I agree with you. It's still a good figure. It still looks nice, but dated. And I think, me personally, when Quietus came out, that showed how dated it was looking even then, even more so since Scourge, Fans Toy Scourge came out.
Scourge and Sovereign don't look like they should be from the same line. There's such a finessing gone into Scourge. It doesn't exist with the Sovereign.
And I think and I think really that's not wishing to be too critical, but I think that's maybe a failing on Fans Toys side because they take so long from design to release. You know, I mean, we had it with, I'm going to say it because it's a bugbear, but with the Hoodlum.
Yeah,
Hoodlums.
I photographed that the other day. I think you commented on it, didn't you?
Yeah, it's just that had no purpose being released. You know, Fans Toys should have gone back and redone that before they released it. You know, but fortunately they did it for Acoustic Wave.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I remember seeing the first renders and the first prototype images of their MP Soundwave, but they cancelled it because of MP13, you know, Soundwave. It was MP13, MP03. Anyway, whichever one it was. But then, so they went back, redesigned it, and they released it, and it's a phenomenal looking figure.
Well, the box art on Acoustic Wave is the original design.
It is, yeah.
But even the Blitzwing obviously has gone through about 3 iterations before that's finally coming out. But yeah, Hoodlum's just it's a rough figure.
It is.
I went back and forth on it. I did initially replace my hot rod with it. I gave hot rods to my nephew, who then, you know, he wasn't as bothered about Transformers at his age now, so I got it back. And so,
give me that back now.
Yeah. So I have that, but I actually also have a KO of the Target Master hot rod, which is better than both of them. It's actually made better than my Takara.
Yeah,
these hot rods, like the chrome, still chrome and not orange, and it's tight. It stands up straight.
Yeah, it's got like a bit of it's got a different paint color.
Well, the paint color schemes off the Rebirth and Headmaster. Sorry, so it's got like the window crotch section, which is a strange thing to say. But it's a darker color and everything. Yeah. Yeah.
So, with that, then I'll finish this little bit. This because we've gone with like a few of the questions have merged there, which is fine. I don't mind at all. It's less work for me in the editing room, so I'm all for that. You know, bless you on that.
5 hours here.
Is there a figure of a character? I mean, it doesn't have to be Transformers. It can be anything, you know. But is there anything that you don't have or they haven't made yet that you'd like to see a representation of it made, so you can, you know, have it on your shelf there?
Like I say, we're desperate for a new hot rod as far as Transformers go, and I would dearly like a new Octane, because the 2 Octane figures just don't do it for me. I think the Unique Toys one's very small. The KFC one I had for a while, and his ankles aren't attached to anything.
Right.
It just doesn't really work very well. I mean, I'm very lucky in the terms of the other things that I collect that are kind of so established. So, I mean, the Marvel stuff I collect, there's not many characters there that there isn't a figure for. So I'm pretty good with what I've got for that. This is what I was saying about sort of reaching a sort of natural conclusion, possibly near future, is that there's just so many of the characters that I actually mean something to me. I've got. There's not much left to do. So I've got an X-Men collection, I've got a Spider-Man collection, I've got a various Marvel collection. And I'm quite happy with them. So all right. There's probably some video game stuff that I could get into. Yeah. But I'd be opening up new rabbit holes, I have to say. A dangerous thing.
No, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. I mean, I'm the same. I mean, I have a couple of Marvel Legends stuff, and also Star Wars Black Series stuff as well. I have a few of those.
I got a Darth Vader yesterday for £15.
Oh, excellent!
Yeah, still really chuffed. Yeah, I've got a Mayfix Darth Vader on pre-order for next year.
All right, yeah.
I thought this looks decent for £15. I'll put a little space on the shelf.
Yeah, I bet that Mayfix one will look nice when it comes.
It does. Like,
but yeah, the Marvel Legends stuff, the one I'd like to see, which I don't know if it was I don't think it was released under Marvel Legends. It may have been. I could be wrong, but I'd like to see a good Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider figure. Yeah. But the one from the Nicolas Cage film.
Okay.
You know, I'd like to see one. You know, like
a live action Ghost Rider.
Yeah, because I had an idea. I saw. I can't remember. It was one of the like, you know, the online retailers. They're having a sale, and it was the Marvel. It was a character I've never heard of, but he's called Chamber.
Yes, he's an X-Men character.
Yeah, and he's in black boots, leather pants, and a leather jacket. And I thought that would make a good film Johnny Blaze body. Yeah, and I thought, right, well, if I can get that, because I mean, I think in the sale they were selling it off for something like a tenner, and I thought, you know, that's a cheap, that's a cheap figure for £10. I thought I could get that. I just need to get, you know, a Ghost Rider figure and just swap the heads, and I've got a great looking Ghost Rider.
Because he's all sort of flames from the neck up, isn't he, Chamber?
Yeah. Well, the flames from the neck up thing that comes off when you pull the head off. That comes off.
Right.
So you could just literally put the, you know, so that was the plan. Anyway, Hasbro must have known about my plan because the previously released Ghost Rider figures have a different sized ball joint to the newer Marvel Legends stuff. So you can't just swap them over. There would have to be some Dremel in and sanding, and I thought, nah, I just can't be bothered with that. I just wanted to basically get two figures, swap the heads, and then
yeah. Well, now you talk about a time investment, aren't you, rather than money?
Yeah. I mean, I've been through my customizing phase. I enjoyed it while I did it, but I don't have the time or the inkling to go back to it now. So, but one I did see the other day, and I'm tempted to go back and pick it up, is again another figure I know very little about, Crystar.
Oh, rings a bell.
It's basically a translucent figure,
right?
But he's got like a helmet and boots, and I think has he got a sword and shield or something like that. And they've got that on sale. I think it was something like £12. I think, and I thought, I mean, you know, that was just pandering to my suckerage for translucent plastic. You know, no other reason. It was like, oh, you know. So I managed to hold off on that.
A lot of my Marvel stuff is kind of based on Marvel versus Capcom 2. So like anything sort of that tickles that button, I guess.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the cable I've got is the Marvel versus Capcom 2 cable.
Yeah.
You know, I've got characters like Gambit, Doctor Doom. Love my Mezco Doctor Doom. Yeah, so that's kind of a big informative. So they've just announced a lot of figures based on that. But they're all in 2-packs. So there's always like one that nobody's actually going to want to buy on its own, so it's stuck with one of the other ones. So weighing that up, because I've got the most recent Venom, but they're doing a blue one in the style of the Marvel vs. Capcom games. It's just like that scratches a very particular itch. Yeah. I also know I don't need it. But then what do you need anyway?
Yeah. And then
I have very limited shelf space.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Shelf space is always a premium, especially I know that being up in loft here, you're just like, there's no space at all. But then on the Star Wars Black Series side, just to finish off this point, is I'd been holding out for a Sant Trooper, but in the new Stormtrooper mold. You know, like the pinless joint one. And I never. Anyway, it's coming out later this year, so it's like, so once I've got that, I can close the lid on my Black Series stuff, you know, because it's all just Stormtroopers and Stormtrooper variants anyway. So
I love Star Wars, and it was a big part growing up, but it's not something I collect as much, and I don't know why. I mean, I've got the Mayfix Boba Fett, which is great. Yeah. It was Return of the Jedi version? Yeah, I think it's the Return of the Jedi version. And I've just picked up that Black Series Darth Vader, and I've got the Black Series Grand Admiral Thrawn. And that's not because I watched Ahsoka, it's because I read the Extended Universe books. And my partner really wanted to get me something from Forbidden Planet in London last time we were down that way. So I was like, yeah, I could go for a Grand Admiral Thrawn. You know, I love that character. But I think there's too many faces in Star Wars, if that makes sense. So like, I don't want bad figures with bad looking human faces. A lot of the stuff I've got masks and costumes are partially masked. Whereas I don't want a sort of derpy Han Solo standing on my shelf.
I totally get where you're coming from with that. the face sculpts on some of them, and then sometimes they're too good, and it just looks really weird, and it's like unnerving, and you think, no, I don't like that. So, but we won't go there. It's like pure nightmare fuel.
I mean, I'm also a bit aware that I don't really want a sort of large collection of space fascists, which I think until Andor came about had kind of been sort of smoothed away. Like when you can go to Mankind and buy see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil stormtroopers, and it's just like you're not going to get. It's like you're not going to get ornamental figures of the Waffen SS. You know what I mean? That to me, that sort of equates in the Star Wars world. We've kind of lost what that sort of outfit and what those characters meant. So I make a small amendment for Grand Admiral Thrawn, but for the rest of the time, I don't just want a large collection.
But the thing is that, I mean, it's really weird because I think when you look at, I mean, we're deviating slightly, but it don't matter. When you look at the two factions in Star Wars, they're the bad guys, but they look a lot cooler than what the good guys do.
Well, the bad guys always have the best tailoring, don't they?
They do. It's like, that's some sharp tailoring, is that there, and it's like, and then, the Stormtrooper outfits, they're just so iconic. So, but anyway, right. So, bringing it back on topic then. I know you mentioned earlier about, you've got this section of your desk where you work from and this lot, but is there a particular figure that you use the term vibing, is the particular figure at the moment that you're gravitating towards and you're just like picking up and having a mess about with and a play with and that?
I think anybody who's been on my Instagram account will notice there's been a large uptick in Ultra Magnus content since I picked up the fantastic model, definitely not Fans Toys Marg, definitely not Ultra Magnus. That's been the one I've gone to most this year.
Right.
I haven't bought a lot this year, but I think the ones I have bought have been really pretty. So, I mean, for me, it has to look good and be fun to mess with and get in decent poses. So, the Fans Toys Magnus is just an absolutely beautiful figure. It catches the light so well. And I had the X-Transbots, and it was a big step up from the Masterpiece in terms of articulation. Not so much in transformation, but definitely in articulation. And I wasn't fussed on getting the Fans Toys because I knew it was like going to be £200 or something. And I just saw gradually more photos. I thought that looks pretty nice. So I think I managed to get a bit of money off with some vouchers I had. And when it arrived, it was just unequivocally that's the more beautiful figure. It made me lose a couple of articulation points. And I did have to take the shoulders apart, because I had a really floppy bicep swivel on it. Which was unfortunate, but I fixed it now. That's a figure that I can't stop sort of getting out and staring at and putting into dynamic painting poses.
I was just trying to. Is that the one that we chatted about over messaging? About the tabs, the caps on the back of the shoulder.
It's got screw covers that are very difficult to take off. Yes.
Yeah. Well, did you get the video that Fans Toys sent me about that?
Well, you see, I never asked Fans Toys. I just I got a.
I did. I was straight on. I was like, "Come on,
No, I sort of used the Stanley knife to drill some holes into the screw caps.
Yeah, £200 figure Stanley knife.
It's the back. It's fine. So I kind of whittled some circular holes in to the point where I could stick a spudger in and pop the cap off.
Yeah.
Put some polish on and tightened it, and then went through after sales to get some replacement backs because there'd been a couple of slippages of the knife. So that's how I sorted it out.
Yeah.
A bit cavalier.
When you messaged me that, I thought it was that. Do you remember that old Dime advert for Harry Enfield? Harry Enfield did an advert for Dime bars. Yeah. And in the advert, he says, "This man's a nutter." And when I saw your message, I thought, "Nutter? No, I'm taking a Stanley knife."
I told my brother, and his face sort of drained.
Yeah. What? So that's why I just thought, right, no, Fans Toys.
But it was either that, or if I held his arm up, it just went like that. It's like he did the David Brent dance from the Office Christmas special without intending to. So I had to do something. It was driving me mad.
Well, I think. I did a little short video, and I called it the Lenny the Lion Ultra Magnus, because back when I was a young kid, there used to be this guy on TV, and he had a puppet, and it was called Lenny the Lion, and he used to do this, oh, stop, like with his hand, like, really effeminate kind of thing. And that's what it was like. He put his arm up, and it just drops down like that. So, right, yeah, so Ultra Magnus then. Okay.
And the fans, there's the X-Transbot Scrapper as well, I think needs a big shout-out, the ground bite.
Yes.
Because that is also a stunning figure with a lot of lovely articulation. And one of the problems I associate with X-Transbots.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, I've always liked X-Transbot stuff, but I've also always accepted the fact that depending on what given day it is and how you look at it, it could just explode, or just drop to bits, or But I must admit, the turning point for me was Janssen, their version of Perceptor. When I picked that up, I was like, right, okay, they're getting a bit serious now. And then they did Commander Stack, and that was like another level up, even though accepting the,
Springer's.
The what, sorry?
The Springer's great as well. The Versus. That's exceptionally good, with a very easy transformation that didn't feel like it was going to break at any point.
And then they did the two Omnibots. Fioravanti and Iguchi, they were like another step up. And then, like I said, but then when they did the Constructicons, Long Haul and Scrapper, it was like, right, yeah, they're just they're getting serious on this now, and it was a tough decision for me whether to go X-Transbots or Fans Toys on it. But what did it for me was just I feel that the X-Transbots versions look a bit more toy-like than what Fans Toys do. And that was the only reason. That was the only reason.
I mean, I had Long Haul and sold it because it was one of those bought and purchases. I'm also dead set on going for MMC for the Constructicons, generally speaking. But Scrapper is a design that I've always liked as a character.
Yeah.
And when I saw what the X-Transbots could do, I was like, I'm going to have to, have that for
Yeah.
I think even when I get the MMC, I won't be moving on the X-Transbots. I think want to be like my team member and want to be my extra standalone figure.
Right.
I think so. The X-Transbots are a weird one, and everyone always says this, but like even stuff in and around what they've been releasing, it can be a bit patchy. So I've got their Ratchet, which is decent, but still feels a bit old X-Transbots. Like it's got a wafer thin ab connection to the body, which worries you. And it's got awkward arms. The elbow joints are too high up.
Right.
I don't quite understand why. So it never looks. It looks awkward unless you really pose it. So like I say, it's just you buy X-Transbots and sometimes things go wrong. And I kind of always want to give them the benefit of the doubt because I think they do some good stuff. That Perceptor was really good, although it was far too heavy. I thought there was no need for it to be that weight.
Yeah.
And the Springer is excellent. Go back to Constructicons, I really dislike the Fans Toys ones.
Right.
I mean, I'll collect whatever I think's the best version. A lot of that is Fans Toys, but I think they're very clearly setting up Devastator to be the main attraction. And therefore, even the robot modes of the individual members just aren't doing it for me. I mean, the fact that their Scrapper has like a one-click waist rotation,
right,
is I just think it's kind of unacceptable for that point. It's just they're just clearly focused on one thing. But if you buy a combiner, you kind of want it to be at least two of the three look good.
Yeah. I mean, I've got the Toy World Constructor, but they when they did it in the box set. It's this huge box over on the bottom shelf over there. Individually, the robots are quite chug looking.
Yeah.
But when it's combined, it does look like an MP version of Devastator. Whether I keep it or not once I've finished the X-Transbots version, I'm not sure.
See, I think the X-Transbots versions would look good around the combined Toy World. Whereas the one thing I don't trust X-Transbots to do is a full 6-bot combine mode, I don't think. I'm just not sure about that. That's why I'm going for the MMC, because they've got a decent track record with the all built in, and that as their Defensor was a big step up from their Bruticus. So I think X-Transbots will have the capacity to release good individual bots, but combining them is always a concern. I mean, I got the KFC, which obviously is the same company. I got their Power Master Prime, and the core robot's fantastic, and the trailer was good as well, but the weight of the core robot, which was released about a year afterwards, is too heavy for a lot of the hardware that they put in the trailer. And it's just like, why did you release it that way around? And why did you not make sure that it wasn't going to fall backwards every 10 seconds?
Right. Oh dear.
Yeah. Oh. You live and learn, don't you?
Yeah, you live and learn.
But that is great.
Yeah. Right. So Matt, you're stuck on a desert island. What figure are you having with you to while away the lonely days?
I think for playability, it's probably going to be the MMC Optus Pexus. I can't remember which version I've got, what its name technically is, but it's the Stormbringer one, which is the slightly different colour scheme. And that's just so very, very posable. It's obscene, really, the stuff that figure does. Yeah. Pardon me. Are we talking just Transformers? Or are we talking?
It can be anything. It can be anything.
I think I'd probably have to take one of my Spider-Men because I've got such a Spider-Man obsession since I was about 7. Yeah. And I've got how many have I got? I've got 5 of the Mayfex Spider-Men. in different shapes, different colours and costumes. So I think stuff that I can pose about with, and that's not going to break on me. Yeah, because you don't want a broken toy on a desert island. That's
no, you don't. No,
not at all. Like an Optimus Prime face on a ball. Start talking to it.
No, I mean,
there's figures I like more. Sorry, I was going to say there's figures I like more. Probably, I mean, it's a very, very good figure. There's ones I get out and mess with more, but I think to keep me sane, I'd have to have something I could just play around with.
Yeah. No, I get it, and not something with too many accessories that you get lost in the sand as well.
No target masters. Ooh.
Yeah, but no, I get that. Yeah, the Optus Pexus, I didn't get one basically because it's not, it's not really in my collecting remit. Although I have been known from time to time to go out of it. I mean, forever the hypocrite, But that was just one I thought I'm going to stay my hand on that one. I have had. Well, no, it wasn't the. It was the black version, the Nemesis version.
Yeah, Nox version. I had that one first, actually. That's the one I moved on because I just the colours didn't do it enough for me. It was a bit too dull. But that's
I got it just to take some photos of. It was given to me on loan. And I took some photos of it and that lovely wired cape with it and things like that, that you can do flying. And it was nice, but it was like, I think I'll just stick to what I'm doing here with that. But and I can, I'm
looking forward to the Megatron mold that's coming from that. The Tyrantron. It's basically Megatron on the same frame, so that'll be they've done a very good job to not make it just look like a repurposing of the mold, but to have a Megatron with that level of articulation as well, that'd be sweet.
Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip over this next question really because we've already gone over it earlier on, which was when we're talking about other interests, like from a collecting point of view other than your main, which you said about the Marvel Legends and stuff. So, what I'll do is then we'll hop in this time machine and we'll go back to when Mark's a little nipper, running about, the whole paper line thing over the screen. So what's do you want to give us a rundown then of like stuff that you're playing with as a kid, like toys and games and stuff like that, and also what cartoons or comics you're watching and reading.
So I mean we had a Mega Drive and a NES. So there's a lot of Mario 3 being played. Because I was born in '87 and technically a sort of '90s kid, there was a lot more Sonic on my side. So my brother was more the Nintendo fan, and I was more the the Sega fan. So there's a lot of that, and I would say, like, we had a lot of the old toys. So we had stuff like Mask kicking about, and Starcom with all its magnets, and it's mechanical lifts. It's very tactile. But for me, it was when the X-Men and Spider-Man cartoons came out in the mid-90s. That was kind of a big turning point in terms of the things I liked. So I mean, I enjoyed the X-Men cartoon, but then the Spider-Man one came out, and I was like, this isn't the same. I'm not sure I like it. And then something about the voiceover and having that character being present with you the whole time and learning what that character was about through the episodes just lit a big fire, I guess, and that's kind of carried on through. I would say, due to the nature of the films and such, that there was a period where Transformers wasn't as prevalent. No. And the Marvel stuff was a lot more prevalent because you had the 2000s X-Men films and the Spider-Man films. So that they were the big ones and kind of always have been. Video games are just a huge part of my day-to-day life anyway, so there's all sorts in there. Like, you could go into the Resident Evil and Legend of Zelda, Metroid, Metal Gear Solid, just all of that stuff. But in terms of cartoons, a lot of it's been the sort of Marvel stuff and stuff that was affiliated with the games I was playing. Right. Obviously, Beast Wars kicked off in the late 90s, and that was that kind of got me back into things again.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good mix of stuff. And obviously Star Wars. I got into Star Wars when it was re-released before the prequels as well. All right, yeah. Well, when didn't they do that? When they'd done the special, not the special editions, when they digitally remastered them or something. They were adding scenes like Jabba and Hope and the singers in Return of the Jedi and stuff. Yeah, so I saw them at the cinema, and that was again. I got mega obsessed with Star Wars for a while. Right. Yeah, because I think that was the time when all those, like, everything, like, it was like all the Tazos with Star Wars stuff were coming out. And I remember that time. Yeah. I mean, Star Wars Pogs. What, sorry, Matt? Star Wars Pogs. Pogs as well. Yeah. I had a little file of facts, like little fact books. And you could get like one on the Empire, one on, on Tatooine. It was like a tiny little folder you could just flick through and read random facts, before like Star Wars wikis and all sorts. The amount it's interesting you mentioned NES. I got a NES, but it would have been 87, I think it was 87. As old as I am. It didn't. I think the NES first came out in something like 85 or 84. I think it was originally released, but it didn't hit over here for a few years after. And I think it was about then, but I didn't have it right long. I had it probably about maybe 9 months or so. It was basically because the games were just so expensive. Yeah. They were expensive games, so that went on. And I kind of, left the gaming scene for a while. But what really got me back in? I mean, I got a PS1. I did the whole Tomb Raider thing with PS1 when that came out. But like I said, I left it for a good few years, really. But what got me really back into it was Resident Evil 4 for the GameCube. Yeah, it was a great game. And it was just lost track of how much I've played that game. I was just like, this is the thing, So that's, but not good mix.
We'll be right back. Okay, now we're back.
So I'm going to say then, out of all that lot, then, still being, back when you were a kid, were there any particular, like standout toys that you got for, like, say, maybe a birthday or a Christmas, like the big ones where you're like, oh, I can't believe I've got that kind of thing?
I mean, I was very lucky to have some Power Rangers toys that I think my parents queued up outside of Toys R Us for.
Right.
They left the loft recently to go on to a new home.
Yeah.
Very fond memories of it was an Attack on Hoth playset from Star Wars that folded up into like a slightly large lunchbox style.
Alright, yeah.
When you could get the ships with like little minifigures that sat inside.
Yeah.
I had a good few of them, and they say they went with the playset. There was there was a especially large goblin glider for the Green Goblin that I had from the cartoon, because he had like a normal one he came with, just about that big, and then there's this one that was like that big and triple the amount of plastics that'll clutter the ocean for decades to come. So I mean, stuff like that, and I think my Dreamcast was a big one. I eschewed the PlayStation 1 and got a Dreamcast because we'd been to what was called, it was in Dorset, it was called the Sega Centre. It was basically a Sega operated arcade, and that's where I played Marvel vs. Capcom, and Crazy Taxi was coming, and Sonic Adventure games. I was like, that's the one I want. So stuff like that, really. Yeah. So when you like still as a kid, then did you? Was there a point where, which happens to us, but was there a point come when you stopped playing with stuff, and like can you remember what was the last toy that you had, or is it just those just like memories that have just dissipated now? I think the memories have just dissipated. I mean, I remember getting stuff around the Phantom Menace release.
Right.
I had a fair few Phantom Menace figures, and I had Beast Wars figures, and then I think that was where it sort of trailed off from there. But that's the late 90s, early noughts. So I was coming up to like 14 at that point. So that's the sort of, I think that's the kind of natural time when you fade off with sort of childhood toys in any case. So a lot of it was more video games and stuff like that at that point.
So just trying which, to be fair, which is what I'm finding a lot that speaking to people, that it just morphs into video gaming, which is fair enough. I'm holding out that someone will turn around and say, actually, yes, this was the last one, and I was like, balls to it, and I never went back.
It was so bad. It was either so bad or so good, nothing would ever beat it.
I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that 10% variance, you know what I'm saying?
I think I might have had a couple of Attack of the Clones figures. I definitely had a Jango Fett. But I can't remember anything specific, but that would be, to my mind, that would match up with the sort of time that just sort of drifted away. It was the end of Beast Wars. Into Beast Machines, and then that sort of prequel era Star Wars.
No, fair enough. I know we did touch upon it briefly, when we were talking about, like your motivation and goals and things like that. But I would could you see yourself? Could you see a point coming where you do stop collecting, as it were?
I don't think so. I think even at the age that most of us are now, and the fact that we've kind of just decided to say, fuck it, this is what I do, I'm quite happy with that. I think there's still a weird thing about getting even older and still doing it, but that's just anything you do when you get older. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much I want to keep replacing characters, or how much I would need to keep replacing characters. So, and I don't know. I mean, that thing about buying a figure because it's nice, I think works better with the sort of high-end masterpiece Transformers rather than it works with like a Marvel character. I don't need the tip-top absolute best for some of those. So I think it would just be more a case that it will probably morph into something else.
Right.
To be honest, I mean, talk about opening rabbit holes, there probably will be something that will open up in the future. and my focus will kind of shift naturally to that. Because how many times do I need to rebuy sound waves? I think, is acoustic wave going to be topped? Probably not.
No,
certainly not for look. So I think there'll always be things that I want to pick up. I mean, if you told me, when I started, that I was going to drop several hundreds of pounds building Defence Saw, I probably would have been absolutely aghast. And yet here we are, and he's beautiful. So it just evolves and changes. I don't think I've got a definitive dead stop, but I think there might be a point where I'll have got pretty much everything that I could want. Maybe when, especially when Fans Hobby finally release a G2 Megatron in Masterpiece style, because I'm really looking forward to that. So now I'll probably just move on to other things. I don't think I'll ever stop collecting as like, I must not do this anymore. It might just be a case of I'll slow down. And I'll start buying property. Become a property flipper. I don't know. I think it's not something I'm definitely thinking about consciously. It's probably more of a naturalistic approach to it, I guess. Not thinking too deeply.
It'll just be a more organic and just go wherever it goes.
Ebbs and flows, isn't it? If in 10 years' time and I haven't bought anything for a while, somebody releases a better version of Cup than the one I've currently got, then I'd be tempted to do that.
No, understood. Right. So, stopping on the collecting thing, then, what would you say you like and dislike about collecting?
I like getting things. I like getting a new. It's like Santa's come just for me. He's bought a special package. And like I say, I always like. Well, I like even more now that idea of having that representation of the thing that I like in my house. Recently, I picked up Tobey Maguire Spider-Man from FX, and just like having that costuming, that style, just really hits something in me. Obviously, I don't like the increased amount of money that it costs, but that's the name of the game. Things never get cheaper. I think that's where it becomes more about balancing what you buy. So a month where you buy a Fans Toys Magnus, you probably might not buy something else the next 2 months, and just balance it out that way. Things I don't like, I mean, the communities I'm part of online and in the Facebook groups are generally great, and everybody I've met at TFN is great, but it doesn't take much to dig around the internet to find other communities where they're a bit more antisocial and maybe take things a bit too seriously. I mean, you're buying a toy of a cartoon. At the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. I think some of that sort of gatekeeping and nonsense that goes along with that puts me off a bit. But then again, like I say, you can choose to engage with that or not, and I choose not to engage with it. I just don't like that it's there, I guess, because I don't take it that seriously in the slightest.
Right.
So,
Oh, cool. What advice would you give to a collector that's just starting out now? I mean, it can be collecting anything, but just what would you, if they were to come and ask, what would you say to them?
Well, that's a difficult one. I suppose take care of your collection, but also enjoy it. Because I'm very much a person who has things out and messes about with them. My brother's very different. He takes photographs, puts them back in the display cabinet, and both of those are equally valid. But I think if you're going to spend money on something, you should enjoy it and not just have it to look at, because then you might as well have bought a painting. I've bought something interactive, and if something goes wrong, if a bit of paint chips, it's not the end of the world, and for the most part you can sort it out. Just enjoy it. Don't take it too seriously. Just be open about it, enjoy it, have fun.
Good. So is there anything you'd like to ask me? Because we're getting close to the end now, so I'm going to throw myself to the wolves and just say, is there out that you'd like to ask me?
Well, what's your favourite figure that you've got? Not necessarily the best one, but your favourite one.
Oh, Jesus. I hate that question.
Yeah. Obviously the newest thing is your favourite thing always. But if you had to go back to one that you sort of hold slightly above the others, I think Fans Toy Sovereign's one of mine, which is why I'm kind of looking forward to see what they do with the next iteration.
Yeah.
Perversely, yeah.
I would probably have to say, and I would. I think. Not overthinking it and giving it too much thought, but I'm going to say my favourite figure would probably be me boxed G1 Soundwave. It would be that one. That's my favourite because I've got a lot of memories tied up from when I originally got that in Christmas of 84 or 85 or whenever it was, when I first got it, because I got that and Megatron for Christmas, one Christmas. So there's that whole thing surrounding that. Also, just because Soundwave's just a cool toy and a cool character as well. It's just like, it's really shifty. It's pretty quiet. He's just there lurking in the background, and he's kind of like, he's not my favourite character, by the way, but he's, that's Grimlock. It will always be Grimlock,
I've got the Giga Powers behind me.
Because you need a big Dinobot, The bigger the better, they've got to have some heft and but no. So I'd say probably that Soundwave, that would probably be my favourite one. That would be my, if I refer back to an older version of a questioning that I did, that would be my rescue item, where the house suddenly to combust, that would be the one that I'd be running back inside to grab a hold of.
You've jogged a memory actually. Talk about the last toys you bought. I just completely slipped my mind. But when I was about 16, I bought the Takara editions of the ones with like the lovely white boxes with the Pat Lee art on the front.
Yes,
I bought Soundwave and Megatron, and sort of deemed the £60 for Megatron to be quite expensive at the time. But yes, I do have them, and they were probably some of the last toys I bought, but they were also nostalgia purposes, even though it was like 20 years ago now. So that's probably a separate issue entirely, but I do have them still in my cupboard. Very nice packages they are too.
The Transformers collection. They're like book style, cardboard like book style
with the Dreamwave art.
Yeah. Well, I do have all those. I have the full run of those, and the gorgeous. They really are nice of those. So that Soundwave, that one would do it for me. I think that would be my favourite.
Absolutely fair.
But I'm just trying to think for a masterpiece. Let me have a think. Pick a masterpiece. God, there's so many nice ones. You see that the masterpiece just as a ball.
Quietus is such a
too far away from the microphone.
I think Quietus is just a feat of engineering, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say. I'd say probably the toy version of Magic Square Light of Peace.
Okay.
The MSO2 TC.
Is that the first version of their Prime, or is that the new
No,
one?
that was Light of Freedom. Light of Peace is
Victory as well, isn't it? As well?
It's the newer released one. Yeah, that's a lovely looking Prime. That is a lovely looking Prime.
I've got the only version of that.
Yeah, the only thing that disappoints me on it is just the lack of die-cast content of it. And that it has none. It's no detriment to it, but I think if those Magic Square Primes, if they were made with the same quality of plastic that Fans Toys are, and they had a bit of die casting, they would just feel like a top tier MP.
Yeah, but I mean, I've got the Combaticons so far, and I think you get much more posability out of it. I think it's just balance of what you want. I mean, I like a bit of die cast, but like I say, X-Transbot's Perceptor was ridiculous. And whereas the other side of that is you get stuff like the Magic Square Combaticons, which have none. And I kind of don't mind because it lets me pause them more. I think Fans Toys have got the better idea recently of just putting it in the joints rather than, because paint and die cast just fills me with worry these days. Because it's just going to scrape, it's just going to chip off. Whereas if you put it in the joints to keep them tidy and together, that's a much better idea. So I don't need die cast by any stretch of the imagination, because sometimes you get more posing out of them. But I do understand that we're kind of used to that heft. And I think more for me it's how it's used. Like, don't put it on a thigh joint, put it in the knees, not on the actual the thighs themselves, because that's just asking for chipping. But it is the way I handle stuff anyway. Not that I bash them about, but if I get them out and I pose them around, it's less so just putting them on a shelf in an A stance where you're not going to chip them as easily as I am doing what I do.
No. Well, that's it, Mark. We're at the end. We've had a good chat there. It's been really interesting. I've enjoyed it. So to close out, then, do you just want to remind people where they can find you on the socials? Yeah,
so I mean, I've got a Blue Sky account that I don't use, so I wouldn't bother with that one. But it's just Instagram, Deskbot Quickshots, all one word, no underscores. That's me. That's the only place that you need to find me.
Yeah. Good stuff. Right, again, so thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate your time and sharing your collecting journey with me and that, and whoever's out there watching. And it's been great. So, and hopefully we'll chat again soon.
It's a pleasure to be asked. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. So you take care. All the best, sir, and we'll see you when we see you.
Cheers.
See you later.
Thank you for watching The Collector's Archive. To ensure you never miss an episode, please select the like, subscribe, and notification icons. The vaults of Icon.